Who's the best? Anthropic, OpenAI, Google? Who's to know? But this article is titled Anthropic versus OpenAI. I didn't know a lot about this. Behind the bitter battle for the future of AI. Well, I'm going to tell you what, in that battle, they better be careful to not start battling the regular people. They almost did that. The OpenAI didn't have a problem because they started working with, the Pentagon or something like that. Was it them? Don't quote me on it. I believe it was them. And then the people turned against them. And what did the people do? They ran right to Anthropic. They ran right over to Claude. Oh, Claude is as good as ChatGPT now. Like now, Claude has been better. I think that Claude has been better than ChatGPT at many things for a long time, but they went right over there. So you have to, in this rivalry, they may want to be careful of not stepping on the toes of those who made them, in my humble opinion. But let's read this little tidbit here. If not for the intense rivalry between Anthropic and OpenAI, the generative AI boom might not have arrived so quickly. If you get an opportunity to hit that little like button, if you enjoy my content here. In late 2022, OpenAI caught wind that Anthropic was working on an AI-powered chatbot. Really? Say more. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman immediately directed employees to fast-track a competing product. 4 people familiar with the matter said. 2 weeks later, the company released ChatGPT. What? That's how they did it? Sam, you okay there, buddy? This is not a good look, but hey, you're here now. Let's continue on. Sparking a technological revolution that promises to overhaul. Which one came out first? No, I just remember ChatGPT taking everything by storm. The rest is history. Let's continue. Sparking a technological revolution that promises to overhaul the global economy and the ways humans interact. The same urgency now extends to plans for their blockbuster IPOs. The companies are racing to beat one another to market, viewing a first listing as a way to frame how investors will value the companies and establish their CEO as the leading voice of AI. As recently as May, many advisors expected OpenAI would be the first to take the initial steps to go public. OpenAI has told some investors it was targeting an IPO as early as September, 2 people familiar with the matter said. But Anthropic jumped in first, announcing on June 1st it had made a confidential filing with U.S. regulators. OpenAI followed on Monday, a week later. Yeah, they do have a battle going on. I would have never known. All I need is your AI to function properly when I'm doing advanced research, especially when it comes to something like quantum panpsychism and stuff like that. And I think for what I research, Claude is better. Anthropic's stuff is better, but it's not that OpenAI is a slouch. But no, just from how I use these AIs, Claude is better for that. The stakes extend beyond the clash between Altman and Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, a former researcher at OpenAI, where he was one of the people responsible for the core technology that made ChatGPT possible. The competition is spilling into Wall Street. It's rare for two. Sorry, but I ran right through that period. I had to keep it moving, folks. I have a little bit of time to do this. So the competition is spilling into Wall Street. It's rare for two such big direct rivals to raise capital at the same time, and the IPOs will be so big that they are by necessity turning to some of the banks for help. You know, the banks are going to be some of the biggest users of these technologies, so they should help. It benefits them. Then this next section is titled All Out War. All right, you're making it sound good. Let's find out what you're talking about. Economic Times. Top bosses often clash. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have traded public barbs as part of their space race. I always find that interesting because those two individuals, one is heavily profited off of deleterious working circumstances for certain individuals, and the other one is like it takes a lot of credit from brilliant minds, as if that one came up with everything themselves. Although they have hired countless genius minds to do certain things, that one gets all the credit for all the different space stuff that goes on. That's always very interesting to me. But continuing on, they have traded public barbs, so their positioning is highly overrated, in my humble opinion. No disrespect, but I have to give props to all the scientists and all the actual brilliant minds that are behind these technologies and are actually the ones who are pushing humanity forward. If this is going to be, these things are going to be positive for humanity in the future, of course. So have traded public barbs as part of their space race. Right, of course. Because arguing is the sign of brilliant minds. Right. Let's continue on here. How many times you heard Pythagoras argue with someone? That they did, like Pythagoras did. Maybe perhaps he did, but I don't recall that. Pythagoras was all about being silent, right? Most of the brilliant minds were about being silent. Lao Tzu, silence. You do have the rare ones like Socrates, like the Socratic method, stand out there in debate. But even then, it's a little bit different. And Bill Gates and Steve Jobs quarreled over whether Microsoft products had copied from Apple. The tension between Altman and Amidai is a driving force in today's biggest technological revolution, influencing how quickly AI tools are released, that features they include, and ultimately how people interact with the technology in their daily lives. Quote, "It's an all-out war between these guys," unquote, said Anastasios Angelopoulos. Ooh, I got that name. I did very well with that. CEO of Arena, a top AI benchmarking and evaluation company. Quote, "Every time there's a new release from Anthropic, the bet will be that OpenAI is soon to follow and vice versa." Sometimes they jump out there a little bit too much. What happened with Sora? Then they had some problems with Sora and the, generating revenue from that. So not everything is a victory, right? But hopefully you learn from your mistakes if you're wise. But let's continue on here. The companies are also at odds over how each tells its financial story to investors. OpenAI has told investors, employees, that Anthropic's preferred accounting method, so they're talking about each other, that Anthropic's preferred accounting method overstates its revenue by billions of dollars, according to two people familiar with the matter. In April, OpenAI's chief revenue officer, Denise Dresser, told employees that OpenAI considers Anthropic's financials inflated, according to a company memo reviewed by Reuters. Do they realize there's enough value to go around? Literally. Meanwhile, while they're doing this, Google is going wild with AI. They're battling each other while Google's just, from what I've seen, they're just dominating. Let's continue. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm seeing. Let's continue. That's because Anthropic books the full amount that the customers pay for its AI services as revenue, but the part of that sum is later routed to partners such as Amazon and Google. OpenAI uses a different method, reporting only net revenue after paying its partner Microsoft. What's going on with Copilot? I feel like Copilot has taken a step back, in my humble opinion. It's no disrespect, but I think they could do a little bit better. I'll just leave it at that. Anthropic told Reuters that it follows established accounting. What is that face that they have? There's like this blob face that they offer, and it's like it can make faces at you while it speaks. I don't like that. Let's continue on here. Anthropic told Reuters that it follows established accounting practices and recognizes gross revenue because it is the, quote, principal in the transaction, while its cloud partners are distribution channels. Dresser's internal communications aim to reassure OpenAI staffers who have been demoralized by Anthropic's rapid growth. Okay, aren't you just focus on your job? Just do good. Just do the best that you can. That's all you can do, is the best that you can. All right, let's continue on. They're demoralized by Anthropic's rapid growth. Two of the people Reuters spoke to said one reason for, quote, Anthropic to try to beat OpenAI out to the public market is that they will get to set the agenda for how a frontier model reports financials and do so in a way that is favorable to their financial model, unquote, said Gil Luria, an analyst at D.A. Davidson. The desire to best its rivals has at times led to tensions within OpenAI. We're going to close out with this little piece here. Altman recently clashed with the chief financial officer, Sarah Friar, over whether the company would meet the obligations required for a public listing on such a compressed timeline. How do you debate that with her? She's the chief financial officer. Wouldn't she come with a massive amount of actual data? Not speculation, not what you think, Sam, but this is her specialty. This is what she does for a living. And she has others that work under her. I'm sure that data is going to back up it has to back up what she's saying. I just don't understand clashes like that. Let's continue on here. Three people familiar with the matter said Altman told her to figure it out or hire different bankers and lawyers who could pull it off, they said. All right. Fryer has since told advisors that the company's leadership is aligned on timing, another person said. All right, so we're gonna leave off there for today, folks. Appreciate you being here. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? Are you setting up your businesses with AI and preparing for full automation? Like a lot of you are AI specialists. You're much more advanced than I ever could be. I already know that because I remember reading comments from a lot of people in the comment section. You fantastical knowledge, so I appreciate that as well. You sharing at that time. Yeah, full automation. Wow. RWA and all that stuff, how that's going to link to DLT. The future is going to be very interesting. So until next time, see ya.